Yo, what up, my people? It's your boy Radical. Now I'm coming back at you with another video. And this one is actually pretty interesting, right? Now, let me just preface this really quickly before I get into anything. Um, Ever since Tariq Nasheed started this little grift calling his group, and it is a group. I've already proved that a long time ago. FBA, right? And their primary targets were immigrants, right? Which had nothing to do with reparations because their whole movement is supposed to be based on reparations. There's no political action, no political strategies, nothing that's being discussed besides just talking shit about immigrants. But all right. Ever since that movement started, the whole going after immigrants and the phrase you guys fled has become very popular amongst that group, right? So with that being said, any inkling or any point of historical facts, these FBA individuals will twist it and turn it into something that's not that, because mind you, immigrants fled. FBA's didn't, even though there's a whole goddamn country in Africa called Liberia where FBA individuals fled. But it is what it is. Based on their own definition, right? If you migrate, you're fleeing, right? Okay. But, based on this, when it comes to FBA, they don't flee. They don't flee. So, all right, whatever. It's semantics, it's neither here nor there, right? So, because of that, there's an individual of the name Afro Elite. He pretty much copies, Tariq Nasheed or whatever the case is. Now, let me just say this again, because I made a video about him previously, but I even said it in that video. This is not a diss towards him. This is not like beef or whatever the case is. It's just, ideologies that I don't agree with, and certain ideologies and certain things that he said is completely false because, again, he's trying to get away from the whole concept and the whole thing about fleeing. So, in order to get away from that, you got to rewrite history and rephrase it as you want, so okay, whatever. So it is what it is, you know what I mean? But one thing I will say is if he does decide to answer back, or any of his followers decides to answer back, please use just the talking points that I've used. Don't get into name calling me a Latino, a Latino, fat, this and this and this, because from right then and there you lose the whole argument, and it shows the low level of IQ-ness that you have. I believe that Afro Elite is a very, very intelligent individual, and it just pains me to see somebody that's very articulate and educated to actually fall into these little trickeries and trick bags. It pains me to see that somebody like that could get. I think that he sees the foolishness for what FBA is, but he decides to ignore it for some reason. I don't know why, because he is I could tell that he is very intelligent, that he doesn't just follow the crowd. I think just because I think he's been enamored with some of the individuals that he got along with them, and some of the clout that he got. Maybe, I don't know, but I think he sees the bullshit for what it is. This is just my opinion, but let me just get into the video. Afro Elite talks about the Great Migration that Black Americans, not African Americans, my bad. The Black Americans got into, right? The Great Migration. So I'm gonna just pull up the Wikipedia, description of it. So it says it right here. The Great Migration was one of the largest movements of people in the United States history. Approximately 6 million people moved from America's South to the North, Midwest, and Western states, roughly from 1910s until the 1970s. Now, historians had a somewhat of a debate, but they pretty much come to a conclusion where it did stop and begin again, because there was two periods. There was one where it began like around 1910, and I believe it stopped around the 30s or 40s, I believe so, and then it picked up again, but very, 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 very largely. It picked up again and continued. So, again, this is what the Great Migration is for the people who might not understand why, what the Great Migration is, or the first time them hearing it, or whatever the case is. So I'm gonna go on the video, and he's gonna break this down. According to Afro Elite, he has 5 points that he's gonna talk about, and why this isn't fleeing. My man, if you have to make 5 points on why your people didn't fled, you fled. Let's cut the BS. You know what I'm saying? But all right. So he makes 5 points, and I'm gonna show you guys right here. Check this out.
The very first thing that we have to discuss, shout out to every single last person up in here, is the fact that they're trying to use the Great Migration. They're trying to use our history to justify them fleeing. I've developed 5 points, these 5 key points that separate what the Great Migration was and what fleeing actually is. Because what they're doing is fleeing. The Great Migration was not that. So with these 5,
it's in the name, migration. Yeah, according to your logic, immigrants fled. Y'all moving from one place to another place that's not yours. According to your own logic, y'all fleeing too. But okay.
5 points, and we're going to be very thorough. We're going to break everything down. We're going to use historic reference to discuss how that's not the same thing. Because what they're doing is they say, hey, you can't really be mad at us. We're doing the same thing y'all did. So if y'all did it, if it's cool with y'all, it should be cool with us. That's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to make some type of commonality of what they're doing and what our ancestors have done. So the very first thing that I want to kind of discuss a little bit is Jean Baptist, Jean DeSam, his name is very long, Jean DeSable. This is the black man who discovered Chicago. Okay, he discovered Chicago, and a lot of people associate him with being Haitian because his last name is French, and at the time, France owned Haiti. So people are like, okay, well, he must have been Haitian. So let's look into this because it's not.
He's going to go into the whole thing, how he's not Haitian, he's an FBA and all this other stuff. So I'm just going to skip all of that. And I'm going to go into one of his first points. Okay, so this is one of his first points.
The Great Migration and what they're doing, which is called fleeing. All right. So point number 1, actually, I want to get this off the screen. So that point number 1 was that slavery built the entire country, not only the South. A lot of people undertell how significant slavery was to the entire country. Slavery was all over the country. It was not just in the South. It wasn't just in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, the Carolinas. Slavery was all over the place. So we're going to look up some history about how slavery was not only building other places in the North, slavery was a essential part of the North for a long period of time.
Let me just say real quickly, he's correct, but also incorrect in the same time. Yeah, slavery did build the majority of America, but it wasn't black slavery only. Let's keep it 1,000. America at that time, even during World War I, it wasn't an economic power the way it is now. Let's be completely honest right now. So if slavery built America the way they say they did, you know what I mean? It would have been an economic powerhouse. It wasn't. America was still like, I believe, number 6 or number 5 in the economic power hold of the world. You know what I'm saying? The thing is that you can't say slavery built America if only America was them 13 colonies. There was nothing more that was actually gathered during that time. Now, when America was expanding and America was taking over, Midwest, the West, and everything else, you had other individuals like Latinos who were given access to come over here and do the sharecropping and do the labor work and all this other stuff because it was extremely beneficial and cost effective to have them people there than to bring a bunch of Africans from the north, bring them all the way. Come on now. Like, we got to be historically accurate here. You know what I'm saying? We got to be historically accurate. But also, he is right that slavery, from the East Coast type of impact, it did build, but it didn't build it the way they wanted to say that it built. And what he is doing right now is he's trying to compare that Black Americans build something and y'all coming into the house, we already built with our blood, sweat, and tears and all that other stuff. Dude, like, relax. You know what I'm saying? Nobody needs to be kissing your feet and all that because it's not that serious. All right. Nobody is coming to America wanting to disrespect Black Americans or whatever the case is. I know y'all think that is the center of the universe, but calm down. You know what I'm saying? So it goes into this whole spiel like cotton was king, all this other BS. And I just want to just move on to point number 2 that he makes. And it's very interesting. Check this out.
From fleeing. Okay, that's literally part 1. So we're going to move on to part 2, which is right here. Okay. The Great Migration was still under the U.S. government. All right. So when I say the Great Migration, that's part 2. When I say the Great Migration was still under the U.S. government, I mean the Great Migration didn't extend to Canada. The Great Migration didn't extend to Mexico or any of these other places. The Great Migration was literally this right here. Okay. This is the map of what the Great Migration was. As you can see, the Great Migration, these arrows were pointing from the south. These arrows were not pointing to Mexico, and these arrows were not pointing to Canada. Okay, you can see.
What he's trying to basically say right here is that it wasn't illegal for them to move from state to state. That's basically what he's trying to say. It wasn't illegal for them to move from state to state. So they're not immigrants or whatever the case is. They're not fleeing from another place because it's still United States, which is the most ridiculous thing I could ever even hear. First of all, there was a lot of sundown towns, not only in the South, but also in the North. So it was illegal for Black Americans to go into a part of a neighborhood or whatever the case is, regardless where you came from. You could have been born in that same neighborhood. If that neighborhood is a sundown town, you're done. You feel me? So there was certain parts that's illegal, but that's a reach. I don't want to go there and say all that. What I'm gonna say is that he is reaching right now to the point that he said, well, it wasn't illegal because it was still under the same government. Fam, that like I said, that's dumb. They're migrating. This map is showing that they're fleeing. Look, a bunch of people from Florida fled to New York. A bunch of people from Alabama fled to Buffalo. Like, it shows it right there. Look at all the arrows. The arrows are showing where they fled to. You know what I'm saying? It shows it where they fled to. Like, come on now. Come on now. And the funny thing is, the Great Migration. Check this out. Read the part of it. It even says migrants moved from rural communities to large cities. Migrants, like, come on, like, yo, you got, man. But this escapes these FBA individuals because they're just so focused on, on making themselves feel great and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna move it to I believe 3. His point number 3. I wanna really just check this out because it's interesting.
We were already a citizen. We're not an immigrant in a country that we were already a citizen in. That's literally the definition. All right. So to discuss, we got to break all that stuff down. Then now we're going to go to point number 3. The purpose was for economic opportunity, not to escape racism. A lot of people are talking about there was sanctuary and all that stuff in these places. There was absolutely no sanctuary in the northern states. I just earlier discussed how the northern states were just as brutal as the southern states were. A lot of people talk about the brutality of the southern states because a lot of that was very much so documented. Most of the slaves were in the southern states because that's where the plantations were, especially during the cotton boom. That's where a lot of the slaves were. They even moved a lot of the slaves to the south when the cotton started to really blow up. There was no sanctuary in the north, though. It was just that the northern brutality was less documented than the southern brutality was because a lot of the slaves were concentrated in the southern states. Because
now I will give him this. He's right. There was still racism no matter what. Up north, down south, it is what it is. Up north, the racism was, like he said, was less documented. He is correct on this. He is correct. But the majority of the reason, if you did speak to people back then, due to the fact that it was less documented, one of the reasons, not the main reason, but one of the reasons to move from the south up north is less racism. There's still racism. I'm still going to experience it, but it's less racism. I even have an article, not an article, well, part of a Wikipedia thing right here. Check it out. The driving force behind the mass migration was to escape racial violence, pursue economic and educational opportunities, and obtain freedom from the oppression of Jim Crow. Again, Jim Crow was mainly in the South. Mainly in the South. Up north, in the northern states, Jim Crow didn't affect black folks like that. Actually, there were certain states, you can say, certain states didn't have Jim Crow laws whatsoever, and they would be considered sanctuaries. You could say that, but that'll be a reach, right? So, all right, cool. But that was one of the reasons, not the main reasons, but one of the reasons. The main number one reason was economic opportunity. And guess who also migrates because of economic opportunity? Oh, immigrants. Oh my God. Wow. Oh shit. Am I connecting that? But this is the main reason. You feel me? So again, when he says that, he's partially correct. He is partially correct. It's there's no lie that he is partially correct. So let's just continue to point number 4.
So that's moving on to my very next point right here. Okay. The Great Migration was beneficial to the country. The Great Migration was beneficial to the country. And the difference with that is that it's not like, oh my God, we need a savior. We need a savior. Oh my God. Well, what are we going to do? We need so much help and all that. No. There was, and I'm going to show it to you guys now because we're going to have 100. We're going to be very sharp after this. Okay. The history is going to be very, very clear after this. Now, around the time when the Great Migration was going on, historians somewhat debate on the beginning of it, but a lot of people say that was around 1910. So if you notice, or if you guys know the history of that, it was a lot of the World War I happened 4 years after what they claim the beginning of what did I just say? The Great Migration. My bad. I'm sitting up there looking this stuff up. Now, look at this. So when we say slavery built the country, it literally did. Labor during World War One. Now, just because there was labor during World War One and World War One started necessarily in 1914, the fighting was going on prior to 1914, and they had a labor shortage.
Let me just say, this is historically accurate. This is true. At the time during World War One, a lot of white boys were going over there. You know, a few Black Americans went over there, a few, but mainly Black Americans were back, you know, in America. So what they were doing, they were actually, you know, using that Black American labor, you know, for, you know, manufacturing, automobiles, food in the streets, and, you know, factory jobs. And that is true. That stayed and economically boomed the country, because when you have more labor force, the more money you put into the economy, the more money the economy expands. You know who also does that? Because he's trying to prove that only Black Americans do this. No, immigrants today do this as well. They put money back into the economy, illegal or legal. If you don't believe me, look it up your damn selves. There's a lot of illegal immigrants that actually do pay taxes because they want to be in good standing with the state that they're in, so they don't get deported. Believe it or not, there was a case. I think back in I think was it Boston or something like that. There was somebody that was an illegal immigrant that was paying their taxes because they were getting money under the table, but still they were paying their taxes. And when it came for deportation, they said no. And actually, he ended up getting his papers a couple of years later. But they didn't deport him because he was a beneficial part of the country. Believe it or not. I couldn't find the case right now, but you guys look it up. But I'm telling you, these things has happened. And also, if you guys don't believe me, check this out. Immigrants also make an important contribution to the U.S. economy. Most directly, immigrants increase the potential of economic output by increasing the size of the labor force. It happens today. It still happens today. So this little thing that he's trying to say, that only Black Americans were doing it, and this is the reason why we're separating, because they did something way totally different from immigrants, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, because if you can find the same example in another community, then guess what, homie? You're not unique. You know what I'm saying? Ya fled. It's okay to say that. Ya fled. You feel me? But let's keep it going to this. I think it was a point. I think it was a point number 5, I believe, 4 or 5. Let's keep it going.
Telecommunications and all that stuff. That's when you saw a surge of the women doing that. Okay. So we understand the history, and we have to understand that. All right, so that's point 4. So point 5, right? There was no aid given in the Great Migration. So when I say there was no aid given, I mean for the fact that we have a lot of them coming over here, these asylum seekers, these migrants, we have a lot of them coming over here. They're coming over, they're getting free places to stay. They're not paying any rent. They're getting free places to stay. They're getting free food, phones, clothes, Wi-Fi. They're given preferential treatment when it comes to employment, when it comes to schools, when it comes to all of that stuff. They're getting preferential treatment. In the South, they were not doing that. I mean, in the Great Migration, I'm sorry. They were not doing any of that.
Okay. This is not true. Actually, this is not true. Let me just say a couple of things first. Migrants, first of all, I didn't know Wi-Fi was such a ubiquitous thing of a society. I didn't know that Wi-Fi was so fucking huge that you cannot get it nowhere. Fam, there's literally free Wi-Fi everywhere. So I didn't think this is something that Black Americans need desperately. Wi-Fi is everywhere. Okay, damn near free. Like, relax. Oh my God, they're getting Wi-Fi. They're getting faster Wi-Fi. Like, come on, bro. Like, what the hell? Now, this goes to show that this. I'm telling you, he's very smart but very ignorant at the same time. This goes to show he just reads news articles, doesn't really read everything else. These migrants who are getting these apartments for free, the clothes for free. The only thing that they're keeping is the clothes. The apartments, it's only temporarily. They're getting kicked out. This is 6 months from now. They're getting kicked out. New York already. So I'm from New York. They're already kicking a lot of migrants out. That's it. It's done. Yes, they, like he said, free phones. Yeah, they're getting free phones. They're not getting iPhones, fam. They're getting these little cheap fucking burner drug dealer phones. Like, come on, I didn't know y'all want drug dealer phones. This is what y'all bitching about? Come on now. Come on now. Like, let's keep it real here. Because if that was the case, nobody should be having an iPhone then. If this is what, oh shit, immigrants are getting everything. That the only thing that I do agree with, that I'm kind of baffled about, that immigrants are coming over here, they getting bread. That's the only thing that I'm kind of tight about. I'm like, fam, I bust my ass in this country. I do my job. I do what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, for somebody that literally just came here 2 days ago, having a bank account larger than me, like what the hell? That's the only thing that I give them, that, which is true, because I'll be like, hey yo, and mind you, I'm a Latino. You feel me? I'm not getting this. Migrants are getting this, okay? And the thing is that I'm like, hey yo, how can I benefit from this shit? There's no way. There's no way for me to benefit. But that's not true. So I'm gonna show you the aid that Black Americans did get during the Great Migration. He said it himself too. I think he doesn't understand this. He said it himself during the World War I thing. But I'm gonna show y'all. Check this out. Check this out. This is the aid. This is the aid that the Great Migration gave Black Americans. African Americans made substantial gains in the industrial employment, particularly in the steel, automobile, shipping, and meat packing industries. Between 1910 and 1920, the number of Black employed in the industry nearly doubled from 500,000 to 901,000. That is a benefit. No matter, he even said how racist the North was, right? If it was so damn racist, they would be denying all these Black Americans from coming in over here. Let's keep it 1,000. That's what they do it. But this is the aid that they got. The aid that they got was economic. The aid that they got was jobs. The aid that they got was, okay, you're coming over here, but guess what? Here you go. Here's a job. Migrants are not having that once they step over here. They're not having that. The majority of migrants are not getting money the way these certain articles are making it seem. There's only a few. The majority of migrants who are getting caught, they're getting shipped back over. But the thing is, when migrants come over here and they're trying to get a job under the table, don't get mad at the migrant, get mad at the employer. He's the one choosing to employ this individual and not you, because he's choosing to undercut an individual, undercut somebody. That's what he's choosing to do. Don't get mad at him. Get mad at the employer. You feel me? And here's more proof. Here, check this out. Here's more proof. Northern companies offered special incentives to encourage Black workers to relocate, including free transportation and low cost housing. Oh shit, that sounds like immigrants. Oh my God. That sounds like free transportation. These migrants are being transported all over the place. They're seeing the United States more than we are. You feel me? Low cost housing. These migrants are going into low cost housing too. So that's what the aid was. And check this out, even more aid. Check this out. During World War I, there was a decline in European immigrants. Decline, of course, because the two major countries are going to war, right? With slow supply of workers from the north of factories and all this other stuff. rightfully so, right? But this is what the aid, he is saying Black Americans didn't get no aid. This is proof. Black Americans did get aid. Free transportation. Yo, y'all don't even have to, check this out. Y'all don't even have to walk for this great migration. We'll help you migrate somewhere else. And here's some low-cost housing. I think, was it back in the day, this was like, what, $50? Okay, just pay me 20. I got you. That's what it is. Let's keep it 1,000. That's what the aid was. If there was cell phones back then, they would have got free cell phones too. So everything that he's saying that's trying to separate the Great Migration from, that's not fleeing. This is everything that he's saying applies to this, applies to the Great Migration. That's insane. You know what I'm saying? That is insane. But listen, again, this is not a diss to anybody. This is not, me trying to come at Afro Elite. Shout out to him. You know what I'm saying? It just pains me to see somebody that has a great knowledge and grasp of history, somebody that is very well, educated, to fall into these little traps, I'm gonna say. And again, if somebody wants to, debate me on this, I'm open. But if also somebody wants to respond, just hit my points. Don't make little personal attacks, because then you lose the argument. You know what I'm saying? It shows how low your IQ really is. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna catch y'all later. All right, peace.